I am happy to see him playing well. But it also hurts knowing he could be playing well for our Spurs.
Go, Spurs, go, 'cause the Giants stay.
What is up, San Antonio Spurs fans? Welcome to TSR Sports. This has been a fantastic season, but one thing that sometimes crosses my mind is what could have been. If you're not sure who that is, next to Wemby in the thumbnail, that is the Sacramento Kings' Maxime Raynaud, a buddy of Wemby's, who went for 21 points and 19 rebounds last night, which inspired me to finally make this video. We've talked about it a little bit here and there in the live stream, so here we are finally talking about it in a video. You might be thinking, TSR, what's your point? He's with the Kings. Well, let's go back to the first night of last year's draft. The San Antonio Spurs have reportedly traded the 38th overall pick in this year's draft to the Indiana Pacers for a future second-round draft choice and cash. When this happened, I gotta say, I was not happy because the Spurs were trading the pick away before we knew who was available at pick 38. What if there's a player there that could really fit our needs? Well, as fate would have it, the Sacramento Kings have selected Maxime Raynaud with the 42nd pick in the 2025 NBA Draft. Raynaud averaged 20.2 points and 10.6 rebounds per game this past season, which ranked 15th and 9th in the nation, respectively. This is a player that I talked a lot before the draft that I think could help the team, a player that I want. I know it doesn't matter what I want. It's what the Spurs want, but I think it's a player that could have helped the team, and many of you were like, yeah, if he's available at 38 TSR, yeah, maybe the Spurs should grab him. Seems like it would be a good idea. I don't know. Would it have been? Would it not have been? Sure, he had a big game last night, but how has he done in the NBA this year? Well, I'd say he's played pretty well for a rookie when you consider he's playing for the absolute disaster Sacramento Kings franchise. Maxime Raynaud is 22 years old, a power forward center, 7'1", 250. Yeah, he's a big dude. He's played in 47 games, and he has started about half of them, averaging 23 minutes, just about 10 points, 7 boards on splits of 56, 28, 75. For a rookie, I'd say that's pretty darn good, and he has showed up in the back end of the Kia rookie ladder quite a few times. And I will say, this Spurs rebuild has been excellent. In my humble opinion, I think Brian Wright, was wrong on this one. Here's why. Not only was he producing, it was available. Let's take a look at some of our Spurs salaries. Kelly Olynyk has been awful at times this year, and he's making $13.4 million to sit on the bench. Why do we trade for him? I understand the Spurs are moving on from Malaki Branham, who has been moved around a lot and now waived by the Hornets recently. Malaki Branham, again, I'm sorry, Blake wasn't understand why I moved from him, but Kelly Olynyk, why bring him in? To just have vet experience, another backup big? All right, we need another backup big. There's a guy on the bottom there. Let's keep going. Jeremy Sohan's making $7 million. Unfortunately, he has pretty much turned into garbage time Jeremy only. We'll see how that plays out the rest of the season. Bismack Biyombo's making $2.2 million. I guess to be a cheerleader and locker room guy, a vet, I don't know. And then we have Maxime Raynaud, who's currently making a $1.2 million this year. Next season, $2 million. The following season, I believe $2.5 million. He is producing and starting at times. It was all the time Wemby has missed and Luke Kornet has missed. I think he would have been a solid third-string center, and he was there available for the taking at pick 38. And the irony is, some of you guys, this is one other reason I'm doing the video, have commented, TSR, why don't we trade for Maxime Raynaud? And don't get me wrong, if the Spurs had made a trade for him, fine, so be it. But I'm thinking to myself, we shouldn't be suggesting a trade. He should be a Spur, in my opinion. There's a lot of players on the team that aren't getting minutes. Jordan McLaughlin, your Lindy Waters, etc. I'm very happy with the team. I don't want you guys to think like, TSR, you're just nitpicking. I'm addressing this because you guys have been bringing it up, and some of the videos are inspired by conversation in comments or in the live streams. And people have been talking about Maxime Raynaud on the channel a little bit. So I was like, you know what? Let's check in on him, see how he's doing, and remember that he could have been a Spur. These guys are buddies. They practice together. They play chess together. And I can only think just how fun it'd be with them running around the court together, speaking in French, offensive or defensive conversations, and the opposing team doesn't know what the heck they're saying. I think that's a little benefit where you could say roll for a lob, and then you hear blah, 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 and you're like, huh? And next thing you know, boom, shakalaka, thunder dunk of justice. Guys, drop a comment down below. I know with drafting, it's always hindsight. And you know, let me say this and then I'll get to Brian Wright in a second. Comment down below, do you think the Spurs followed this move? Or was it the right move at the time to trade that second pick for a future consideration? As far as Brian Wright, we've talked about a little bit on the channel. Maybe I'll dig into it a little deeper in the future. His drafting, I'm not focusing on his trade or contracts, just drafting outside of the obvious picks, and the obvious picks are Wemby, Castle, and Harper. They've been mostly miss. I think he started drafting in 2020. It seems like the line is blurred on this channel. Some say 19 with Lucas Samanic and Keldon Johnson. I thought it was 2020 with the Devin Vassell pick and Trey Jones. I think 2020 was a decent draft for him. Vassell might not have turned into the player we want him to be, but he is a good player, and I believe he has one of the best mid-range field goal percentages in the NBA. Correct me if I'm wrong. Trey Jones has been a good backup for the Spurs when he was here and has done well in Chicago, so I think draft is okay. But after that, the second-round picks have all been misses, and the first round this year, Carter Bryant seems to be... Actually, you know what? We don't really have a lot to I don't have enough to evaluate that in a video. I'm like, he's only had this handful of... Oh! I just jumped to Wemby. My apology. I'm doing this on the cuff. 2021 was a disaster. Joshua Primo and Joe Wieskamp both no longer in the NBA. 2022 is looking like a disaster. Jeremy Sochan not playing. Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley not even on the team. So my mind jumped ahead to Wemby for some reason. Vassell. 20 was a decent draft. 21 and 22, in my opinion, at this point in time, are absolute Fs. And then we have the obvious picks with Wemby, Castle, and Harper. And Bryant is looking like it was probably a good pick, but it's way too early to tell. We'll have to redress that a year or two from now. That 21 and 22 draft are bad. Now you can also say, you could be the, look, devil's advocate, TSR. If he drafts well in 21 and 22, and there are definitely good players available, then maybe we don't get Wemby. I'll give you that. Maybe we don't get Wemby, we don't get Castle, we don't get Harper, so everything is played out the way it was supposed to, but let's not pretend that bad drafting and bad decision-making maybe lucked us a little into the position we are now. Now, I'm not complaining. Hey, whatever. You know what? It worked out great. Happy, so be it. But my whole point is, I think Brian Wright as a GM with drafting has not done a particularly great job. But with a little luck, some good trades, the team has come together better than expected. So Brian Wright as a GM, I'm going to give you this, I guess, turn into a Brian Wright GM rating video. Let's finish with this. How would you rate Brian Wright as a GM? I'm going to say, because it's worked out, an A-. Yeah, some of the contracts, like scratch my head, Vassell's original extension, De'Aaron Fox, that's a lot of money, but so far it's been working. And at this moment in time, I'll give it an A-. Grade can, of course, change depending on what happens in the future. All right, there you go. You got a 2-for-1 video. We talked about Brian Wright's draft picks and Maxime Raynaud, who you guys have been talking about a lot here and there throughout the last few months. That's all I got, guys. Hit the thumb. Oh, wait. I'll be live tonight at 10:15 p.m. Eastern for the Spurs versus the Lakers. The Lakers are on a back-to-back. LeBron James played, I think, 35 or 36 minutes last night. Will he play tonight? Don't know. Luka Doncic didn't play last night. Does that mean he plays tonight? Who the heck knows? But that should be a fun one, so 10:15 p.m. Eastern. Okay, there we go. I'm done for real this time. Hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and if you want to support the channel, subscribe to become part of our awesome Spurs community. I thank you, and as always, go Spurs go.